Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation. It's good to have you all. So we're going to take a look tonight through the lens of the difference between what people want you to believe and what is actually happening. And I'm going to do it off the cuff because, God forbid, I have a teleprompter on this show. We do everything spontaneously. As Bill O'Reilly once famously said, we'll do it live. So there's a Bible verse. Matthew has it notably, but it's in different places in the Bible. And what it refers to is that when the end of days comes, the angels are going to toss the non-believers into the fire, and there will be gnashing of teeth. That's the way the political parties want you to think about what's going to happen if you're not with them. The problem with it is that that is really a standard and a fear that just works for them, not for us. That's what they want you to believe. Now, if you look at the lens of what's actually happening, you're going to be better served as a critical thinking independent. For example, the immigration battle. That is definitely the war afoot right now, early on in the Trump administration. So the first example is the cartels are firing at Border Patrol people because they know Trump is coming for them. Says who? Podcasters on Twitter? That's not what's happening. Yes, look at the screen. The Department of Homeland Security sources told NewsNation earlier today, Border Patrol agents near Fronten Island, Texas, also known as Cartel Island, were fired upon by suspected cartel members on the Mexican side of the border. Border Patrol returned fire. No one was hit. Okay, this is unusual. So why is it? Because they're coming after Trump? No. We have no reason to believe that. There's reporting from a year ago when a couple of the capos from the cartels were arrested, including El Chapo's son, and the cartel sent word they'd begin attacking authorities. And that's when you see it. The truth is enough. There's a real problem. There's no need to hype it about how the cartels are responding to Trump. It's BS. It's same with all the drama surrounding the immigration roundup raids. No need to jump on what Trump says. Just watch what happens. Right now, everything is about online outrage on this issue. Have you seen this?
I just wanted to say that I'm so sorry. So many people are getting attacked. Children. I don't understand. I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do. I'll try everything, I promise.
Look, I feel for the kid. That's Selena Gomez. Her grandparents were illegal entrants. Now, but she's got to know, on social media, you put your heart out there, you're asking to get it trampled on. So, while she understands that people should not be defined only by how they enter this place, she put herself out there, and the right crushed her for not caring about the right people. It was so nasty and pointless, but the venom works. Gomez took it down. Look what she wrote. Apparently, it's not okay to show empathy for people. No, it is okay. And you shouldn't have taken it down. Don't let online bullies dictate who and what you care about. Compassion is not criminal. And my conservative brothers, I give a straight take about the problems on the border, and I have, whether Democrats like it or not. But you can care about Lake and Riley and people who come in illegally and otherwise do everything right and now risk having their families destroyed. You can worry about that, too. Some of you guys are way too harsh for the Christians you purport to be. We can enforce the law and still be compassionate. Tom Homan doesn't even talk like some of you online warriors. Now, the bigger point here is there are better ways to make an impact on this issue for Democrats than wading in the mud of Twitter. Like what? Well, just watch what's happening. Trump hears ICE is doing its job, but basically at just a little bit of a better rate than under Biden. So he gets frustrated. Then comes reports that Trumpers are pushing for bigger numbers, like by a third. Trump wants the show, but there's a risk. He doesn't care about that part, just like with the pardons. rushing is a mistake. And pushing quotas is a bad mistake. You are going to push the men and women doing the job to make decisions that may be wrong under that pressure to put up numbers. So instead of watching and hoping that happens, which I certainly don't, there is an opportunity for people of good conscience in Congress to see what's coming. And instead of just saying Trump is wrong, do what you think is right. Move to protect dreamers before they become collateral damage in a hyper-aggressive enforcement environment. Remember, I said it. I know Democrats can't pass anything, and I know there aren't enough Republicans to go against anything that Trump wants in the moment. But at least you could show that you are about the right things. Right? Be clear. Immigration, like I said, is the major battleground early on. And Trump has high ground because Biden caved to his left flank, and they are toxic on this issue. Witness AOC, the face of the problem for Democrats on this issue. Just now, you saw this weekend, right? Trump threatens Colombia. Colombia says we're not taking the return flights. Trump threatens Colombia with tariffs, all right? AOC jumps on it to score a political gotcha, linking the tariffs that he threatened against Colombia with higher coffee prices and inflation. Now she cares about inflation. You're trying too hard, lady. Colombia's president even retweeted AOC's post, and her squad pals were going off about how Trumpers can't spell Colombia, which is true, but so what? It's penny ante BS. The threat worked. Colombia caved. The point is this. Democrats don't hate, facilitate. Hate is the MAGA game, okay? Push for changes that matter and be vocal about that, not Trump. And on this issue especially, AOC is perfect proof of why Democrats lost this last election and what must change. You're being too harsh about AOC. No, I'm not. I respect AOC's passion, if not her positions. She's made a great platform for herself in Congress, not through legislative achievement, not through even really messaging that has resonated in the country in a real way, but it works for herself. And you got to appreciate that in politics. She's got millions and millions of followers online. It's just not translating to anything good for her party. In fact, the opposite is true. Okay? She does not. She's a believer. She just doesn't believe in the right things on this issue to be in step with the American people. Well, that's your opinion. No, it's provable. She was one of 4 Democrats who opposed the emergency border funding in 2019, sent billions in aid to migrant kids, desperately needed it. Why? Because it also included $300 million for ICE and CBP. And she wanted ICE defunded, like Homeland Security, like the police. You want more? Okay. She was against the bipartisan border deal last year. But that wasn't a great bill. It was never going to make it past the House. Langford is a loser. Okay, if that's what you choose to believe, I don't. I think Senator Langford had a big constituency behind him that then got quiet when Trump didn't like the bill. But fine. She was also against Biden's asylum executive order, which ultimately led to the lowest border crossing numbers during his administration. She was against it. So how do we know that this was the wrong posture on the policy? Look at the Democrats' own postmortem poll. Immigration was the number 2 reason swing voters and Latino voters went for Trump. These 2 groups were key to his win. Democrats seem to guess that all Latinos would be illegal entrance friendly. Talk about not being woke. And they were wrong. Trump received a record number of Latino voters last year. He got 46% of Latinos. And he got a 20-point shift with Latino men from 36% in 2020 to 55% in 2024. You know who else? Democrats like her pissed off? People watching NewsNation, independents. Trump saw a 10-point swing in his favor from 2020 to 2024. Biden crushed him with independents. Harris barely beat him. So that is the reality. This immigration is the proving ground for the Trump administration right now. Either you can try to head up the hate parade and hope that everything he does bombs, or you can be a part of what works well and a part of trying to say what would be better, especially if you're in Congress. Now, let's discuss the state of play, okay? The man representing the men and women on the front lines of the immigration fight. President of the National Border Patrol Council, Paul Perez. Paul, good to have you, brother. Appreciate it.
Good to be with you, Chris.
Now, I shouldn't have said quotas. I was talking to my producer, Ben, about this today. I don't know that they're asking for quotas. I just know that they're asking for more. Now, what is the concern when you start to put number or quantitative pressure on the men and women of ICE out doing the job?
So I haven't heard anything about quotas either, other than from the media. I've got a lot of friends that work in ICE, former Border Patrol agents that have gone to ICE and HSI, and I can tell you they're really excited to do the job. And so I don't think there's going to be any problem with getting the apprehensions. It's just going to take a little bit of work from them changing focus. What they were focusing on under the previous administration and what they're going to be doing under Trump, it's a lot different for them. And so it's just going to take a little getting used to. But I think they've already worked that out, and they're going to be out there apprehending as many people as they can, whether it's those targeted enforcement operations they're running or anybody that they happen to catch collaterally like they did in Denver.
Right. Now, Denver, they're catching collateral people. We haven't heard anything yet about who would be qualified by reasonable people as the wrong people who are being rounded up, right? Because the promise of Tom Homan is, I'm going after people who have entered illegally and have been accused of serious crimes while here, okay? That's who they're supposed to be going after. They start sweeping up people who just entered illegally but are otherwise doing everything right here and smashing up families or catching some dreamers in there. People are going to have a different feeling about this enforcement mechanism, don't you think?
Well, I think the intent, just like Tom said, and just like they're doing now, it's targeted enforcement. They're going after the really, really bad criminal aliens. But if these criminal aliens happen to have with them anybody else that's illegally in this country, like Tom Homan said, they're going to be picked up too, because we can't leave anybody in this country that doesn't have a legal right to be here.
Right. But there's a reason he drew that distinction also, right? The voters have different reasons about it. Communities have different layers and levels of need for people who are in this country illegally, right? There's one guy who's the MS-13 guy who's pushing fentanyl and stealing kids and trafficking them. There's another one who's smuggled in, who's making a life, has a family, and is integrated into a community, right? They're not the same threat.
Sure. With the amount of people that are illegally in this country, and the numbers vary, we have to be specific. We have to target those that we know are committing crimes that are a threat to the communities that they're living in. And that's exactly what ICE, that's exactly what Border Patrol's doing. So this country has way too many immigrants for us to be able to sweep them all up in one operation. This is something that's going to continue to be targeted for those people that are committing crimes out there.
Yeah, I do worry about you guys a little bit. Not just that they're exposing you to a lot more field work, but also there's this political pressure on you guys, like this is the solution. Like you guys are a big Dyson vacuum that's going to suck up all the illegal entrants and the country is going to somehow be better for it. I mean, isn't the focus really still what's happening on the border and getting the resources there? I mean, of course, you have to do enforcement with ICE. I get it. But on the CBP piece of being able to deal with the flow and being able to have enough people to grab those who are coming and not have this proliferation of getaways, as you guys call them, and a place to hold them, people to process them, and a way to get them home.
Yeah, absolutely. So our agents, the green shirts, the Border Patrol, we're operating in between the ports of entry, and they're being forward deployed now more than they have been under the previous administration. And so we're getting our guys out there, our guys and gals, we're getting some military assistance because we don't have enough agents right now to secure the border, which is why President Trump wants to bring another 10,000 agents onto the Border Patrol, because we need the help. We're doing everything that we can to secure the border, but we do need help, and President Trump's going to get us that help right now with the military to be force multipliers out there for us.
You know who could get you the men and women you need? Congress. You know, he's bringing down the military because that's his reach, right? It's just very limited what they can do for you. You know, you can't have National Guard or, military certainly on the border, stopping people, processing them, making determinations, the way CBP folk can be trained to do. So if Congress would act, that'd be the best thing. One last quick thing. How concerned are you about these smugglers shooting at the agents who interdicted them trying to get people across the river? Do you think you're going to see more of this, or do you think it was an isolated incident?
I think the more pressure we put, the more desperate they get. Look, we just lost a Border Patrol agent up on the northern border, and nobody would have thought that the northern border was a dangerous place. But the northern border, the southern border, that's a dangerous place for law enforcement. Border Patrol agents know the risk that they're up against every day. And so I'm very concerned because the more pressure we put, the more likely they are to respond. But make no mistake, we're not going to cede we're not going to cede anything to the cartels. They're not going to intimidate us. They're not going to stop us from doing the job. We're going to be out there every day protecting this country because that's the oath that we swore to uphold.
Well, now, with them being designated FTOs, you guys are looking at a real upgrade in your toys because the best tool, everybody talks about military, that's the last line of asset, what you can do here now. You can steal their money. You can take their money that they steal, and you can take their assets. So you guys are going to have some hopped up trucks and a lot of fast boats and a lot of other stuff that they're using right now because the government's going to be able to take them. Thank you very much for what you do in representing the men and the women who keep us safe. I wish the job weren't so hard for you guys, and hopefully Congress gets the message. And I'll speak to you here again. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, Paul Perez. 4 minutes and 5 seconds. When we come back, let's talk a little politics, okay? A little strategy. I want to bring in my friend James Carville to talk about the Democrat posture. Where's the opportunity for them? What should they be careful about? Next. Carville, you know him as the legendary strategist for Democrats. I just know him as just a good guy. It's good to see you, my friend. So the lesson has been learned by some Democrats about how much immigration means in this country and what the interests of the American people are on it. But I don't feel like the message is everywhere in terms of how they're responding to Trump's early actions. What is your suggestion for what Democrats should be doing about immigration in this country?
Well, first of all, we can back up. It was a problem because President Biden listened to the idiot left and didn't enforce the border. By the time that he left office, it was a manageable situation down there. So a lot of difference between what was 3 years ago and what happened when President Trump took office. The criminality of all kind should be dealt with and dealt with harshly. And if there's anybody in this country illegally that's a criminal, they got to be sent back wherever they came from pronto. Just like anybody that's legally in this country is a criminal and need to be tried and convicted and sent to jail pronto. So I'm not going to defend that. But Chris, remember, the number one promise that Trump made was he was going to do something about high grocery prices, specifically eggs. Before he took office, he said, well, I can't do anything about it. Well, thank you for telling us. And I was very encouraged to see some Democratic members of Congress put out a thing today saying, well, what's happened here? And of course, the price of eggs are going up. Now, it might be because of bird flu or something, but the truth of the matter is that's not what he said in the election. So he says Greenland, Panama Canal, Canada, the Gulf of America, whatever insane stuff he is. And we shouldn't get distracted by that. Your number one thing was you were going to do something about high grocery prices. You've done nothing. Have gone up since you've taken office.
I agree. The challenge is he's not running again, right? And pointing out that he said something that wound up being BS doesn't really get you anywhere, certainly not with his people. Isn't there a different way for Democrats to handle that, like come up with ideas for what would lower inflation, even if they can't pass the legislation, at least show that they have the ideas and they're not just saying Trump is a liar every 5 seconds?
Well, first of all, we have an election coming up in 2026. It's not a presidential election, but it's a pretty important, both the elections to be pretty important. Secondly, we can be for things like increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour. We haven't raised it since 2009. It's still $7.25 an hour. When his tax bill comes up, that's going to extend tax cuts for really wealthy people. Say, let's not do this. Let's take that money and give it to people who are trying to buy a house, who are trying to deal with the necessities of life. I don't know if we can come up with a specific program to stop inflation, but there are a lot of things we can do to give people tools in their toolbox to deal with increasing prices that we have. And I think if we execute on these kind of fundamental things, I think the voters will reward us. I really do. But we've got to focus on that. How do you give people tools? And look at young people. Look at the mortgage rates don't go down. He talks a lot about that. It's true. It's very daunting to be a young person and buy a house. Cost of education is not going down. You got to give people tools to deal with that. So that there are a lot of opportunities here. We just have to take them when we see them.
But do you think that they see these opportunities?
Well, there are opportunities to help people deal with the challenges they have in life. You know, when you talk about immigration, I can remember this, maybe even before your time, Simpson Mazzoli, my friend Senator Alan Simpson. When President Reagan was president, they tried to deal with the people that were in the country. We have, 13, 14 million people who are not here. I hate to use it, but they're here, and you can't willy-nilly start deporting people. George Will once pointed out, if you deported every person that was in this country illegally, the bus line would go from Laredo to Toronto.
Right.
And, we dealt with dreamers. We've had all kinds of things where people have tried to come together. President Bush, 43, tried to deal with this. President Obama tried to deal with the dreamers. I think President Eisenhower dealt with this issue. This is an issue. We've got 14 million people here, and many of them are hardworking, law-abiding people. And we got to figure a way to get them some citizenship here, or green, or some legal status where they don't live in fear the whole time. Like Selena Gomez, I think that was, and I congratulate you for defending her. I actually met her on a movie set one time. I think she was genuine. I think that young person really feels that pain deep in her heart. I was convinced by it, but very convinced by it.
Yeah, she was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. I mean, the social media is one of the most heartless, nasty places where people don't have to own what they say, so they say the worst possible things they can. She's got grandparents who entered illegally. Her father was born here. She's got compassion, and people, piss on her for it. But that's another problem. But I said she shouldn't have taken it down.
I wouldn't either. And I think a vast number of these people, I'm not going to say all of them, are sexually inadequate. They're losers. They can't do anything. They can't develop any kind of relationship, and they feel some kind of a power or something by going on social media and making fun and trashing people. But if you ask me, 3/4 of these people that do this, there's something, they have some kind of fundamental personality disorder. That's what I really think.
Maybe, maybe not. I think it's just a mob mentality thing. And I also think they're not like that when they're not on there. And I can't really go into too much how I know this, but put it this way, James. I found who some of the people are who are creating threat profiles for me and my family. And they do not live in the real world the way they do online. I promise you that. One other quick thing, then I'll let you go. DEI. The president has the ability to do what he's doing with DEI on the governmental level. Is this something that is worth Democrats jumping up and down about the way they have been early on? Or is it to accept that you overcorrected on this issue and how you institute these values matters, and you can't force people what to think just because it's what you believe?
I think the whole identity movement of 2020, 2019 was one of the most idiotic things we've ever done in America. But DEI, equity, inclusion, diversity are good for everybody. Ask the people at Annapolis, ask the people at West Point, ask the people at Colorado Springs, ask the people at the Coast Guard Academy. All right. And I think that there's real interest in promoting and being aggressive about having diversity in workforce and education, in media, and other things. But we got to not make it a each a piece. You have to do this. That this diversity is good for the United States. It makes us a stronger nation. That's the way that I think we should talk about this. Not as you must do this, and if you're not for it, you're immoral. Wow, that's so idiotic. That language is so counterproductive. I can't tell you. I believe diversity is good for the United States. I'm glad I think we need it, and if anything, we need more of it.
I think it's our secret sauce. It always has been. Nobody can beat us. because we have such a collection. You know, the melting pot is a real metaphor. We have a collection of skills that nobody can match. Nobody can match. James Carville.
The great thing, we live in a country that people want to get into, not get out of, and that's always a good sign.
That is. And you know who stated it beautifully? Ronald Reagan. You can move to France, but you cannot be a Frenchman. You can move from to Turkey, but you cannot be a Turk. But anywhere from any place in the world, they can come to America and be an American. You know, the right has lost a sense of that. But there's opportunity in this. It's all how you play it. And that's why I want your head on it, because nobody knows how to play it better than you. James Carville, thank you very much.
Okay. You bet. You bet.
God bless and be well. 4 minutes and 5 seconds. I love how he always kind of gets up and goes back to what he's doing. I dig that, man. All right. So, did you see what happened on Wall Street today? Why was there such a crushing effect, especially on one specific company that was supposed to be fundamental when it comes to AI? I'll tell you a hint. Why? Are we about to spend hundreds of billions of dollars to help the tech bros, but it's money we don't need to spend? Now, another big one that we may have just gotten an answer to. The CIA is finally suggesting, at least, that they may buy the COVID lab leak theory. Independent journalist Michael Schellenberger says too little, too late. And he has the scoop on the AI issue also. Next. Michael Schellenberger joins us for the scoop on two big developments. First, does the CIA now believe COVID began as a lab leak in China? Did you see what happened over the weekend? Trump's new CIA director, John Ratcliffe, declassified the agency's new analysis. Now, in part, it reads, quote, CIA assesses with low confidence, that's the key phrase that we'll discuss in a second, that a research-related origin of the COVID-19 pandemic is more likely than a natural origin based on the available body of reporting. So why are we just finding out now? Also, you see what happened in the market today? I mean, it was a heavy drop. Why? This Chinese company called DeepSeek, okay? And it is outperforming and outpricing American AI tech companies, even with antiquated chips. It's such a lower price point. Just as Trump announces we're going to spend hundreds of billions building something that supposedly China just showed we may not need. Michael Schellenberger joins us. First, on the CIA, I don't understand how to take this because of the low confidence part, which, as you know, and the audience should understand, it means that they can't really say they know for sure, and there are a lot of unanswered questions, but they're still giving a nod to something we've never heard them give a nod to before. What's your take?
Yeah. Hey, great to be with you, Chris. Yeah, I think the low confidence is merited just given the lack of evidence that we have. I mean, the Chinese, we think, destroyed a lot of important evidence. We also think they're probably continuing to hide evidence. But yet it's important to keep in mind that CIA now joins the FBI, the Department of Energy. This is very significant. It's also significant because in admitting that the CIA had that report months ago under Biden and did not release it, it confirms what we had reported and had suspected in June of 2023, which is that they were in violation of the law. The Congress had passed a very specific law requiring the intelligence agencies to reveal what they knew in June of 2023. They did not do so. That's a huge, well, I should say, I think the release was very significant and important, and I think bravo to Ratcliffe, the new CIA director, bravo to President Trump for doing that. Everybody, whether you're liberal or conservative, should want that level of disclosure. But look, Chris, there's still a lot we don't know. There's still a lot of information that's being hidden. Our sources told us that Fauci himself went to the CIA and put them off of going and looking at the lab leak with seriousness. There's a lot of documents that we still don't have access to that we need access to. I see this as a good start in the beginning of much greater disclosure on all the issues that we care about, including, it's the lab leak, the Hunter Biden laptop, Russiagate, the JFK, Epstein, UFO files. We should have a bipartisan consensus in this country for very broad disclosure.
It's all about the agendas. I don't know how to feel about the Biden administration on this, because it's not like they knew something that we don't. That's what the low confidence is. And they were supposed to issue a report. I guess this is that report. I don't know why they didn't put it out. I don't know how it could be classified if it's low confidence. But, I get your suspicion on that. I'm very suspicious as to why Trump didn't put Epstein up there with Kennedy and Bobby Kennedy and the other ones. That smells. Now, of course, you're not going to hear that from Trump world. But, if Biden was in the pictures with him instead of Trump, they would have gone crazy if Epstein wasn't included. And I don't know how to get past the transparency thing, Michael. I really don't. I feel like these people in government, even when you switch them out, they seem to enjoy not letting us know things.
Well, look, I'll tell you another one that everyone's sitting on the edge of our seat, and I know is a big importance to NewsNation, is where's what's going on with the drones? I think Trump on the second day in office asked his chief of staff to look into the drones. What's going on with the drones? Yeah. We caught the Department of Homeland Security and the Defense Department blatantly lying about the drones in December, which was weird because it was a weird lie. It was too easy to catch them in that lie. As a rule, I don't think politicians and PR people will lie unless they feel like they have to. They clearly didn't want to talk about the fact that we don't control our airspace. I've got another story on this coming out very soon, but we don't have control over our airspace, over the military bases. Maybe that's not a concern. I've never heard anybody argue that it's not a concern, but it doesn't seem like something they want to talk about. And so I'm with you, Chris. Look, we need the Jeffrey Epstein files. We need the P. Diddy files. We need the UFO files, the JFK files. There's a lot that needs to be unearthed because it's important. I think we need to remind ourselves. It's important that people trust the government. When the FBI or DHS or any of these guys are doing an investigation, they depend on the citizens of this country believing that those agencies are run by people that are concerned about our welfare, that are concerned about public safety, that are not engaged in various forms of mishigas behind the scenes. And so for me, that is something I really do hope becomes bipartisan. UAPs have been bipartisan. I think Jeffrey Epstein is bipartisan. I think Lab Leak has become more bipartisan as the time went on. So let's hope that and I think that there's a lot of people are in their own silos on the disclosure issue, but it's really should be one big disclosure movement.
I'm with you. Look, Lab Leak matters to me. I'm just so much more interested in vaccine injuries and long COVID, and everybody wants to weaponize that instead of learning about it. Each party believes there's no advantage for them, and that's why they won't touch it. Trump started with the vaccine, but all the anti-vaxxers are his people. The Democrats were in charge of the pandemic longer. They don't want it. Anyway, did we just learn, because of DeepSeek in China, that investing hundreds of billions of dollars helps the tech bros, but may not be what we need for the people in terms of getting the most out of AI?
Yeah, just quickly, I don't think we know everything about this. I don't trust that we have heard all the information. First of all, this is a potentially world-saving and also world-destroying technology. It should be compared to nuclear. We have a really good system in the world for monitoring nuclear. It's a big part of what the CIA and the State Department do. Part of the problem with the lab leak is that Fauci skirted the restrictions that Obama had set on gain-of-function research. Nuclear is really strong bipartisan position that this is something that we want the private sector involved. We really do, and we have the private sector involved, but we also have a very strong oversight by the government. Let's stick with that American tradition. It's worked really well. We had heard from Mark Andreessen that the Biden administration wanted 100% government control. That's unreasonable. Look, I think it could be a Sputnik moment. We were beat by the Russians on the first satellite, Sputnik, but then we ended up becoming dominant in space. Look, AI, we are at the very beginning of this technology. Chris, we're going to be talking about AI for the rest of our lives. It's a huge issue. We're just a few days into this story, so let's just give it a minute and see what we find out.
But throwing around $500 billion when these guys did it for $5 million is worth investigating before that. I know why Elon and those guys want the money invested, but that's a lot of money if you don't need to do it.
Elon said he didn't want the money invested. Remember, because he didn't want his competitor Sam Altman to have the money. Look, I think there is a public interest in some amount of public investment, but we need to know what's going on. I mean, that we need to figure out. Right. But I do think that we should have a view that there probably needs to be a partnership, because I don't believe that Chinese story of they spent a couple bucks and got a world-changing AI. It's a little hard to believe.
And you know what? Them putting it out right now is also to stimulate the conversation I'm having, which they wanted to embarrass us, and now stupids like me are engaging in the conversation. But to our original point, if the government is straight with us about what's real and what isn't real, then we'll be in a better position. We'll see if they can do it. Michael Schellenberger, I look forward to your next offering and begging you to come on.
Appreciate you. Thanks, Chris.
Take care. 3 minutes and 45 seconds. Now, be very clear. When I talk about guys with ski caps and big microphones and fringe podcasters and them just having agendas, I believe it. But I'm not saying that everybody in digital media is like that. You have independent journalists like Shelley, like Michael Schellenberger, who are the real deal. Taibbi, the Free Press. There are real outlets out there. Just a lot of them aren't. Now, I want to bring in another real digital asset and one of the best journalists of all time, in my opinion. Geraldo and Brian Tyler Cohen are going to come on to talk about the upcoming confirmation hearings and the state of play with Trump. Intelligence upcoming. All right, so there are two things I want to talk about with Geraldo Rivera and Brian Tyler Cohen. The first one is the state of play of how the Democrats are dealing with what Trump is doing. And I think it's kind of captured in this Selena Gomez moment. Not that she is a Democrat, but this pain and this outrage at what seems like him executing harshness and how it's being dealt with. And then what should they do with these upcoming big hearings, right? You've got Robert Kennedy Jr. coming up. You have Tulsi Gabbard coming up. You have Kash Patel coming up. And, you know, when you hear about who's not going to get through, Hegseth, in the beginning, but then people thought it's going to be close, but Vance is going to bring it, and that's what happened. It's really these three that they say are the big question marks. So let's discuss. NewsNation correspondent at large, Geraldo Rivera. Progressive YouTube host, 2 billion views and growing, Brian Tyler Cohen. Good to see you both.
Yeah.
Geraldo, I agree with you about Selena. She shouldn't have taken that down. Her grandparents were illegal entrants. She knows that how you come into this country doesn't define your character. And she got bullied into it. And what do you think the message is there for people who want to resist what's happening with the roundups?
This is a picture of sincerity and compassion we are looking at. This is what we should applaud in our public figures. I love her for this. This is so deeply affecting and touching. I totally believe her. And moreover, this is what forced immigration is all about. This is what deportation is all about. This is the pain and suffering at a human level. Very briefly, a mile away from here, Chris, yesterday evening, Cilantro Taqueria was raided. 3 employees were taken out of Cilantro Taqueria, the Mexican restaurant that everybody goes to. Today, there are flowers there as if people died. They took people, these weren't drug kingpins they took out of there. These are 3 guys working for probably below minimum wage in the local, everyone, Noel, my producer cameraman, drove past there. And it's like they're awake. It's supposed to be open tonight. They're closed. The 3 key employees gone. I mean, that's the real life. This is Cleveland, Ohio. I can't, we should all be crying. I understand illegal immigration, undocumented immigrants, 14 million. It's a real serious problem. But you're not going to solve it by arresting people. You can't arrest your way out of it. And they say you're going after the criminals, the hardened criminals. That's a bunch of bullshit. I mean, with all due respect, I love the guy you had on from the Border Patrol earlier. Very sincere, good the law enforcement officer doing his job. Oh, God bless him. God bless him. But he could do his job and cry for those families at the same time. And
a lot of them do.
Governments,
as you know,
Mexico and Colombia,
as you know, Geraldo. But you and I have been down there. The men and women who do that job, especially CBP, they live it and they live the pain. Those people are doing what you say. They cry and they feel for the people that they also have to interdict with. But let me bring in Brian. How do you thread the needle here? People voted for this, okay? Your party was lax and helped create this. So how do you thread the needle of feeling for people who are not here legally and are supposed to be removed?
I think I would be a little loath to just say that everything Trump does that people voted for. In large part, I mean, you and I know that this election was largely a referendum on the economic conditions across the entire world. Incumbent governments got completely butchered across this entire planet. I think the only incumbent that remained in office was Claudia Sheinbaum in Mexico. But otherwise, this was a dismal economic environment. So I would be loath to just say, well, everything that happens, there was some giant mandate to do. I don't think it was that far. But I think beyond that, look, it's great that we can point to the past, but the postmortems are gone. Beyond that, we have to make the case to the American people, much like James Carville did just a couple of segments ago, that our diversity is our strength in this country. We benefit militarily, we benefit economically, we benefit in every way possible by having a diverse swath of voices and opinions and cultures in this country. That is quite literally what makes us strong. That is what helps us in every facet of the way, especially economically, which means that it's going to redound to the benefit of all people in this country.
Now, I'm with you, but here's the trick, though, because I've lived this issue, right? I've lived it within my family, and I've lived it politically for 40 years. The Democrats should focus on how to fix the system, both illegal entrance and legal entrance. They didn't do that. They let it languish. Well,
I agree they let it languish, but at the same time, there was also no appetite, nor is there ever an appetite among Republicans to fix something when Democrats are in power, because they don't want the Democrats to get credit for being able to do it, and they don't want to deprive themselves of a campaign issue.
Vice versa.
Vice versa, too. I mean, everybody has left this problem. The problem always works better than a solution on this issue. But now, it was the number 2 issue in all the key groups. Let me get a quick take from you guys, because I'm out of time. Do you think all 3 of these people make it through? Tulsi, Kash Patel, and Bobby? Geraldo?
I do. I think they all get through. I think that the Hegseth vote is very telling. I think that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has gotten some substantial traction. Tulsi, I think, has always been underrated. Kash Patel is the one that really worries me. But all eyes will be on the FBI. My goodness, that to me is the biggest. That's more jaw-dropping than Pete Hegseth as defense secretary.
Let's watch it together. We'll see what happens, and then we'll reconvene. Brian, I love you. Thank you for the passion. Geraldo, I agree with you. But, boy, we are in the minority. Dan Abrams is going to start right after a quick break.